You hear the screeching of an owl, you hear the wind begin to howl. You know there's zombies on the prowl, and it's terror time again. They've got you running through the night. It's terror time again, and you just might die of fright. It's a terrifying time.
Well, the team over at IndieStone has once again done it, putting out another big, impressive, and awesome update that gets us all back into the game again. And judging by the analytics, the game's getting bigger than ever. I mean, there was over 26,000 players at once online, which was like 4 or 5 times the previous peak. But enough talking about the update success, let's instead dive into the update proper and discuss everything new and changed. Before I start, however, I'd like to thank every one of y'all for the support on the content, as well as Foxfire for her lovely artwork. For clarity's sake, I will be covering both updates as separate videos, so you can easily tell what was added by 41.60 and what was added and changed by 41.61. Now let's break down this update, shall we? Let's not beat around the bush. There's been a lot of big and small additions to this update, but the one that everyone expected and was hyped for the most was the return of multiplayer. That's right, 41.60 supports 16-player multiplayer, so if you're using this build, grab 15 friends and bully all the zombies in your local region to death. Keep in mind, if you want to use .60 instead of 6.1 for some reason, maybe you don't want to deal with the 32-player cap, there is a new beta within the Steam page. With multiplayer added, there's also local chat that supports different icons and colors. See a link in the description below for that. But IndieStone had a surprise for us. That's right, they dropped Louisville on us. The map they've been talking about for years is finally here, and it doesn't disappoint. It's huge and a blast to explore with friends, and if you want to get into it, you'll have to head through Valley Station to get there. Personally, if you're looking to play quickly, I'd recommend you use, say, Pillow's random spawn mods, as it functions with this update and spawn in the Valley Station region. And using the mini and full-size maps added by this update, you should be able to reliably navigate your way there. Speaking of which, yeah, this update adds a proper in-game mini-map as well as a larger region-wide map that covers everything. So you can finally map out the entire game yourself in-game and use it like a normal map. Add icons and notes on it. And if you think this makes in-game maps irrelevant, think again. Now when you find an in-game map for a region, it'll add that entire map to your large map, making it so you don't have to manually map the region out, and you can still use the small map for annotations. Maybe give it to a friend to give them an idea of where your base is, as well as your in-game thoughts. Lots of different possibilities. If you want to open this up, just click the map icon on the left side of the screen, while hovering over it will instead let you toggle the mini-map with the second button that appears. The map has multiple features, such as a grid button to swap the map's perspective, a C button which will center the map back on your character, an S button will toggle the symbols on and off, and the big X closes it. And you can also use the M key as a hotkey to open and close the big map at will. This isn't the only additions to a map though. The IndieStones added the cursed curved roads. They're just so damn rounded, burn them with fire! But yeah, they actually do look pretty nice, and should help you from just plowing into a tree whenever you take a turn too sharply now. There's also a ton of new map additions all over the map, from actual farms already planted in game, to say TV antennas on home, pink lawn flamingos all over the world, clotheslines in backyards, power lines running alongside highways, just making the world feel even more alive and lived in. The final map / world mechanic is the fact that due to Louisville's size as a concrete jungle, when you go into the zone, you'll suffer from the radio being disrupted for several vanilla radio frequencies. On screen's a full list of them, and much like when a storm interferes with the radio in-game, but it has a different tint to it. And you can actually pile on with weather interference for even less functionality to the radio. Now let's get to the new things that have been added, shall we? There's dozens upon dozens of new items added to the game, from a bunch of different sets of underwear. I mean, you've got animal print, lacy, PC, boxers, briefs, heart boxers, and more. My character keeps running around in a set of animal print panties and a bra, swinging wildly and just getting soaked in blood. Kevin Bell has never looked so good or comfy. There's also a ton of new food items. I mean, we got bologna, sausage, minced meat, limes, grapefruit, pancakes, gravy mixes, and more. There's also new recipes to coincide with these new items, like say for making pancakes or gravy. Now, when you wash a vehicle of blood and such, there's a progress bar that shows how much time's left on the clean. Also, when you right-click a container button in the inventory window, it now displays an item context menu. Zombies now have 2 crawling animations that were previously missing. Equipped items now get unequipped or removed from the hotbar before you drop them, while those in your hands are dropped without being unequipped first. And item categories have been improved. For example, cigarettes now count as junk items and are not food as they logically should be. There's now a back option for clock display size. Item distributions have been updated again, adding the new items as well as putting different items in different spawn pools. Now the water shader looks better by getting rid of some artifacts. They added a slightly greener tint. They increase the ripples, and they make it look a lot less than just squares of blue, instead blending it better together. There's also now sandbox options that allow you to unlock clothing slots and items in the character creation screen. There's also a new foraging and environment search system within the game for better or for worse. Personally, I find the search part of it to be better than the foraging part, as foraging definitely feels mind-numbingly tedious in this build, at least in many circumstances. If you want to utilize this feature, go to the left-hand side of the screen and click that little magnifying glass, which will open investigate mode. Now use this either in the area you want to search for small items, like say around vehicles if you're trying to find a tiny set of keys on the ground, or if you want to forage, you go to the woods and explore. Now when you walk around, your character will search for items. If you spot something, an eye icon will appear above it. Just walk up and double click the item to pick it up. And keep in mind you have to get close to make the eye completely visible. Then an icon of whatever you have found will usually appear. Running is also much less effective at searching, while using the aiming function and look around will increase the vision radius to help you spot harder to locate items. Keep in mind that lighting, weather, and moodles all impact your chance to find things. So don't count on your severely depressed guy with 2 broken legs in a rainstorm to find those life-saving berries very reliably. Now let's move on to this patch's balance changes, shall we? This build only brought a small amount of balance changes this time around, so let's just crack right into them, shall we? Logs now burn for 6 hours instead of the previous 4. Now curtains can be added to window frames that don't have windows, and 2 curtains can be added on different sides of the same square. If you try to add an item that needs to be cooked as part of a more complex recipe, it displays a need to be cooked message, instead of removing the item from the possible items in the recipe list. Now zombies can thump against more items if they've been moved by the player, including the barbecue, the clothing dryer and washing machines, the radio, TVs, jukeboxes, microwaves, and stoves. Funny enough, thumping against the dryer or washer is already a popular pastime for couples. Now guns also have a reduced sound radius, and while this was done for multiplayer testing, it may be changed in the future, so don't think that firing off a gun will be quieter forever. Now let's move on to the new Noiseworks sound, shall we? The Noiseworks team are always hard at work to add new noises, sounds, and music to the game. Now there's a variety of melee weapons that have been updated. This includes the guitar, the drumsticks, small stabbing weapons like scissors or hand forks, hammers, and more. There's also new spear sounds, but currently the same sound plays for both sets of stabbing and slashing. This will be changed in the future. There's also new rain layers for vehicles and trees, so if you're nearby to these objects in the rain, you'll be able to hear the rain hitting them, which is a pretty dope addition for world immersion. There's also now new farming related sounds for plowing, seeding, watering, and harvesting. There's also new properties added, so in the future, evolved recipes will play a new sound rather than the default chop chop chop. Zombies now also have a new metal door thumping noise, which kind of threw me off the first time I heard it. I was like, okay, who the fuck is smashing metal out there? The generator's volume levels should also now be fixed. And the game should also play the big mammal noises less often. And speaking of animal, you're less likely to hear birds scatter when you fire off a gun. This pretty much covers all of Noiseworks. So let's move on to the fixes of this patch, then we'll wrap this video up. With every patch, inevitably comes bug fixes from the last updates, so let's jump right into them, shall we? Keep in mind, I'm not going to cover every single one, as some of them just aren't relevant to you as a player. Now the player movement key inputs won't sometimes be ignored when you're bumped by a zombie, which is good because I don't have control of my own life. I'd at least want control over my character. Now holding the shift key while standing shouldn't result in the player getting knocked forward by a zombie. Some issues with hitting crawlers on their back or in the first half of the flip into front animation have also been fixed. Now magazines should be removed from your hands when it's loaded into a gun. You also shouldn't get a lure error now when you use up a fertilizer bag. You also shouldn't be able to phase through walls like a ghost when you climb a wall and fast forward. Now media items get removed from the hands properly when you load them into a CD player or TV. And now you can't click the play button if there is no media inside the device. Now zombies can't open locked carpentry doors when the cognition sandbox option is active, aka the one that lets them be smart and open doors. And speaking of locked carpentry doors, now they'll shake when you attempt to open them, and now they can also be opened from the inside of a player-made room without the key. A crawler flipping to front animation should also have hopefully been fixed, but that bug's been a wily one to stamp out. And now zombies shouldn't sound like their opposite sex counterparts. And now the spiked pickaxe handle can be equipped as a two-handed weapon. The building floor animation no longer plays when you build shelves. Speaking of which, you can now no longer take shit apart or build it from another room or even another floor. They also fixed the overweight trait, so now it displays that it has a -1 fitness penalty and actually reflects it in game like it's supposed to. And now when you read books, they shouldn't cancel further subsequent actions that are queued. Hotbar animation should also no longer finish before the timer when the player is severely depressed. Now you can properly climb up and over fences at the top of a sheet rope. Electronic scrap now gets nom-nommed when it's in your backpack when you repair a generator, so no more free scrap for you. Vehicle parts should also no longer be damaged when you meet the skill requirement to fix or replace them. The pipe wrench now works for plumbing pipes. Thank God. And now the water dispenser also no longer provides infinite water when placed over a body of water like a lake or a river. Lit candles now get put out when you unequip them, and a bug causing take fuel to be available everywhere when you connect a generator to a gas station was fixed. Zombies also shouldn't try to walk through fences when a sandbag's placed in front of them, likely because sandbags are also now solid blocks. The military crate now has a crate icon, and military tents can have their curtains open and closed. Sync tracking has been turned off for shoving and stomping, which should help fix the animations to play from the beginning more reliably. Also, the propane barbecue doesn't randomly become a microwave somehow when you rotate it. Bait also doesn't disappear from your inventory when you remove it from a trap. You can also rename a character when you die in the world and you want to make a new one. Previously, you'd be stuck with the randomly generated name. Now the sack icon should no longer disappear, and they also show a tooltip for it can be used as a container if empty. And now when a fire dies out, the light should die out with it. Zombies also shouldn't just rip your clothing in one attack. Also, items should no longer be duplicated by grabbing it when another player picks it up, though I think this can still happen in laggier servers. Weapons should also no longer float after being dropped due to a player's death. This should be most of the relevant fixes from this patch, and so let's move on to the wrap up and final thoughts, shall we? Build 41.60 is a pretty massive build. It brings many new things that the community has been waiting months or even years for, with a few surprises tossed in for good measure, and it really ups the polish of the game once again. The map has gotten larger and larger with even more content. While I'm not, say, a particularly big fan of the new foraging system, let's hope they can refine it in the next few patches and make it a bit more easy and fun to use, shall we? I love the new minimap and large map feature. They really do add a lot of convenience to the game and really make it easier for new players to get into the game and understand the world. As I know when I was new, I'd get lost all the time. Hell, before the map was added, I'd still sometimes get lost in some regions just due to some of the repeated houses looking very similar to layouts of other regions until I'd find a local landmark to get my bearing on. So this map feature is a grand idea. Seriously, Indie Stone, y'all have done fantastic work once again, and the surprise of getting Louisville in this update and not just multiplayer really just sealed the deal on this being a fantastic build and y'all being a fantastic development studio. Now I think this just about covers everything, so I'd like to thank each and every one of y'all for the support on the videos. I'd like to ask you to support Foxfire. She's done excellent work. Go show her some love. Her art's fantastic. Go watch her streams, maybe support her Twitter, whatever you like to do. And we'll see you next time.